Those who know a little something about me, Devashi, understand that my life and work has been dedicated to the female approach of deep spiritual embodied practice for women. So I was so happy to come across earlier this year a newly released book called Way of the Yogini by David Dubois, and to find his work, which he'd been doing for a long time already, but all of his books translated from Sanskrit, from ancient texts, which he translated himself, were all done in French until this year. So I was able to enjoy his book and invite him to an earlier conversation on this podcast in episode 14. And I really encourage you to go and listen to that one maybe first if you haven't already. And yeah, I really appreciate the depth of understanding David has of what's beyond the patriarchal approach to traditional Tantra, because it's, of course, even there as well. And now he's back for part two with practical and precise wisdom for daily living. So it's not just about transcendental experiences and mystical teachings from the ancient texts. David is skilled in bringing, I would say, the extraordinary into the ordinary, and maybe the realization that there is no ordinary. And so, to let you know again, David has a doctorate in comparative philosophy. He's a philosophy teacher in Paris, and he has translated over 25 books from Sanskrit. And he has 30 years or so experience teaching non-dual Kashmir Shaivism. What he shares is drawn from his lived experience, so more than a theory, but actually a path, and one that he says can be explored wherever you are in your own life at your own rhythm, which I very much resonate with as well. And maybe you remember that I mentioned David might be coming to teach in Bali, where I've been living, and we would be offering a workshop about the way of the ancient yoginis. But this year, Bali has had some changes, and there is some temporary, I believe, obstacles to offering anything tantric related in Bali due to some circus activities in the neo-tantric space. And it's probably not the best time right now while I'm recording this to be pursuing that further due to a certain British woman who's made herself known around the world being arrested and held in Bali at the moment. And so I will persevere. Hopefully, there will be some opportunity in the new year, because what David Dubois is actually offering is so very different to that, I'm going to say, over-sexualized paradigm of neo-tantra. And I'm not saying that direct sexual practices are a problem, but the lower level of consciousness offering it is not something that the temple frequency of Bali, the island, this culture, they don't want that here. And I support that decision actually. But the thing is, what David's offering is so refined, and it's a contemplative atmosphere. It could not be more different to the circus. So I do hope that it gets to happen. I will be patient. And that brings me back to the focus for this episode, which is about Tantra in daily life, about the temple of magic. David beautifully says, poetically says inside this episode, because whether it's the need to be patient or to learn how to work with our strong emotions or whatever else, it really all is spiritual practice. Every day, everything going on is included in what we could say is spiritual practice. It's not just something that we do when we're sitting down officially meditating. It's learning how to live from a higher level of self-awareness in the everyday life. Welcome to this provocative and heartfelt podcast, where patriarchy is defined as a paradigm that both men and women uphold in different ways. Here you get to listen in on genuine conversations between leaders from around the world to discover more mutual respect and less division, as well as more pleasure and love in your life. My name is Devashee Shakti, and you are warmly welcome to be part of these Beyond Patriarchal Sex conversations. Well, we have a part 2 today with David Dubois being generously sharing his wisdom, coming back a second time. And I believe today is about exploring the theme of everything being Shakti in daily life and what else is involved and how to make that more of a reality, I imagine.
Yeah, Devashi, exactly. Because even if we meditate a lot, say 2 hours a day, which is a lot, 22 hours remain. And what about those 22 hours left? And even if we have wonderful practices that we do not like to call meditation, what about the other times? What do we do when we are just walking in the street, working on the computer, or dealing with people at work or and elsewhere? What do we do then? And especially when we have strong emotions and when we have an intense mental engagement, like we have to solve a problem, we have to answer a mail, and ChatGPT is not working, so we can't. So how do we do when we are intensely active? You know, when I am just walking on the street, it's easier because it does not require so much of thinking. So I can focus on the body feelings, on breath, on inner silence. But what about when it becomes intense, you know? And this is the specialty of tantric teachings. This is the specialty. That is why in Tantra, you have so much imagery of dynamic goddesses and gods dancing, moving, standing, you know, with those postures of very dynamic. And that is why you have so much mantras, singing, and doing things. It's not just remaining motionless. Why? Because Shakti is movement. And in life, in our life, there is movement. So how do we integrate movement? Okay, so that's the theme of today.
Yes. So when life gets intense and challenging and, you know, there's more to the path than just how to work with your sexual energy in lovemaking, it is how does that occur to you in the moment when you are experiencing an intense moment in your life?
Yes, let's take an example. For example, I have organized holidays with someone, and at the last moment that someone says no, it's not possible. And this happens for the 10th time, let's say. like a real situation, because now in France it's holidays, so it's more real for me, even though it's not a personal example, but it could. So then there is a strong attachment, and there is a strong deception, a feeling of sadness, and maybe of anger, of resentment. So strong emotions arising. Why this is happening again, with all I have done, and just anger is arising. The emotion of anger. And then what do I do with this?
Yeah.
What do I do? So let's not forget this example. It's a good example. Let's say I have really invested lots of time, money, searching, hopes. I have imagined things. I have anticipated a lot. And now it all vanishes in one instant, in one moment. So what do I do with that emptiness feeling, with anger? So let's go back to the beginning. First of all, I need to awaken. I need to awaken, because otherwise I can meditate, but it remains in the mind. It remains in the mind. And so the first thing is I need to go beyond the mind, So how do I do this? It's very simple. I need a practice of meditation. The posture of the body is not so important, but let's say I am there, seated at my desk, or walking in the street, or driving the car. It's not important. What do I do? Well, it's very simple. I stop my mind, but not my thoughts, because this is very hard. I just stop thinking. I just stop thinking. I go into inner silence, like I put off my phone. I put off the television. I put off the music. I put off the radio. And I go into inner silence. Does not need to be long. It can be a few moments, but it needs to be as deep, as intense as possible. Just like closing a window on the noise of the street, you know? What happens then? There is that kind of silence. Not all noises disappear, but something stops. Let's say I stop first. Then, in that silence, I turn on my heart. Heart means my deepest feeling, the deepest feeling of me. Let's say the deepest feeling of my body. The names are not so important. That inner feeling that I feel when I am in deep love, in ecstasy, or when I am making love and coming near to orgasm. Maybe that's a clearer pointing at the feeling I'm speaking of now. So in silence, I let that feeling speak in me. It's like I'm turning towards a song, a music, and so I become silent and I listen in silence. I let that music, that deepest of music, speak. That is like a mantra, like listening to a mantra. This is meditation. Does not need to last very long. It can be a few moments. And then when I realize that again, I am going into thoughts and I'm being distracted from that inner feeling, I start again the process, not stressing the length, but the quality. Not quantity, but quality. That's really a key. And so I can do that just now. Just now, I can go into silence and turn myself towards this deepest of feelings. This is what we call meditation. This is what we call meditation. This is what we call awakening as well. This is the same here. Very simple. I turn in silence. I don't care if there are other thoughts, feelings, noises outside or inside. I don't care. I just keep quiet and turn towards that deepest of feelings. That is the practice. That is the formal practice. Okay? So that is the foundation, the ground of it all. That is the basis.
And can I ask, are you describing listening to the inner sound as it's often described in some meditation lineages? Is that what you're talking about?
Okay, good question. Is it about listening to the inner sound? Well, it can be described as the inner sound. But let us be clear, it is not the inner sound that you hear when you close your ears. It is not this sound. Mm-hmm. It's not that subtle thing that you hear when you put a seashell on your ears and you listen to the sound of the sea. You know, it's not this. No, it could be a starting point, but then it would become something else. It would become a meditation with support, which is also possible. But if you need a support, if you need a starting point, if you need some kind of launching pad, I would advise you to use rather your breath. That is especially exhalation. So you listen your breath without trying to do anything with it, and especially out breath. And at the end of out breath, and together with the out breath, you just let go into silence. You know, that moment at the end of exhalation, before the next in breath, there is that gap. There is that moment of balance. That moment which is not out, in, it's just the middle space. And it is then, especially then, that you can feel eternity breathing, the subtle breath, that inner vibration, what the tradition calls spanda, vibration, just vibration. And in and out breath are just gross manifestations of this inner subtle vibration, because breath is also a kind of vibration, in, out. It's also a kind of vibration. So here you start to awaken to that inner vibration. So you can listen, just put the stress on those intervals, on those moments, gaps of suspended awareness. Like, you know, when you are we call it in French, the Russian mountains, when you arrive at the top of in those little trains, you arrive at the top of the thing, and just before going down again, you have that moment of feeling no weight, like this feeling. So you can feel that at the end of the out-breath. If you like, you can as well try with the in-breath, when the breath goes in and before it starts again to go out. This is also a possibility, but with most of people, it's harder. It's easier to go with the end of the out-breath, because the out-breath, the exhalation, invites more you to relax. Whereas the in-breath is more for accumulating tension. So you can do that. And another way would be to use a kind of mind recitation of Om, for instance. Like any sound, you do Om. And you try to follow your inner sound, your mind sound, as long as possible, just transitioning into silence. And then you turn on that deepest inner feeling. And to try to help you to find this deepest feeling, you can remind yourself of the feeling of orgasm. This is where also the sexual practice can be useful for meditation. You don't need to imagine everything, all the details. No, just go right straight to the deepest feeling. You don't need to remember. It's not that complicated. It's just instinctive. You just go. The tradition says it's like a bird going into its nest. So it's straight, just instinctively. And then you try this again and again, like a game, without burdening you with, like, I must do this and remain like this for a long time and so on and so forth. No, more like in a playful mood, just to try to see what happens, without telling yourself, oh, I must do meditation to calm myself. No, it's just... So this is why it is a form of devotion. It is a form of God, of deep spirituality. It's not just about applying a technique, like fixing something. No, it's more, you need more courage, more love, free love, pure love, just like in the sexual practice. You need to give without grasping so much on receiving something. Just more giving, like daring, just like in the sexual practice. It's a kind of daring as well. That is, you just invest your attention and there is no guarantee of any reward. So you don't know what will happen exactly. Because the mind cannot really grasp what happens then. Not. It is so simple, but the mind cannot grasp fully what happens.
I like the naturalness of what you're saying.
The naturalness. Yes.
It's like just enter straight into the moment. And when presence is cultivated through Tantra in sex, it can help to reconnect to that, going straight to that place. And you beautifully demonstrated the out-breath sound at the end of our last episode. And and you're talking now about being present to the space in between the exhale and the inhale.
Exactly. And the good point about it is that you can practice this among other peoples. You don't need to sit and to say, or Om, and everyone looks at you. So you can remain invisible, kind of ninja, tantric yogini. And if you have the opportunity, you can as well do some movements and some sounds and some mantras. But this is not necessary. It's very natural. The point is really the quality. the quality. Just one fully aware out-breath is enough to just launch you into infinite space. That is enough. That is enough. You don't need more. You don't need more. You don't need to know more. You don't need to do more. That is enough. That is really the teaching of the tradition, especially of the Kaula tantric tradition, which is so much centered around the body. Because this practice, this path of breath, is really the foundation of all other practices, including sexual practices. This is what the tradition says. Attending to your breath is the grounding practice for the sexual explorations, if you will. That's so important. So important. Yeah.
And when I'm listening to you, I'm imagining one of those intense, challenging moments in life, and often organically our bodies will do a strong natural exhale without realizing that that's happening. And so it's like, if that happens, then entering into that more consciously is what I'm hearing as a possibility here as well.
Exactly. So this practice is to discover. To discover is not necessarily to change yourself. No, it is to discover. Then the other thing necessary is the appreciation, the recognition. You know, the tradition is not about fabricating something, manufacturing something. It's not an industry of oneself. It is rather a recognition that is a falling in love with what is. It's like you've been with someone for so long and you did not realize that you love him or her. Or the tradition says it's like a princess who loves the prince, and the prince is in front of her, but she does not recognize. And so even though the prince is there, she does not get any satisfaction because she did not recognize him. So until there is no recognition, even if you have found a diamond, if you don't recognize it is a diamond, well, you risk throwing it away and losing the diamond. So the power of experience depends very much on our capacity to recognize what's happening, and especially gratitude, love, appreciation. And this is where the mind has a role, a function, because it is only with the mind that I can recognize. With just pure experience, I will not recognize. It's not enough. And that is why in workshops and around the world and in Bali and elsewhere, you will meet so many people who have powerful experiences with this and that, but it does not really change the course of their lives because they did not really recognize what was given to them. It is one thing to receive a gift. It is another thing to recognize what's happening, the full value of it. Okay, everything is Shakti. So we are already experiencing everything is Shakti, but we do not pay attention. We are not devoted to it. We do not give our love, our full love to it. So even though we are experiencing already that everything is Shakti, we do not really fully profit from it, you know? So this is the second aspect. The meditation experience aspect and the recognition aspect. This is you could say this is the philosophy aspect. If you experiment this, but you still believe that everything is just matter and that everything is just the laws of physics and so on and so forth, you won't get much of it. If, on the other hand, you're completely into conspirationist theories, and you're just high in the sky, so much so that you cannot really recognize what is given in this simple experience, and you're awaiting so much for seeing the aliens and the angels and the strange things and the big lights. Well, you won't get much out of it either.
Yes. And this is why I emphasize so much embodied experiences for people, and why that is not just about sex, actually.
Yeah.
Because we can't recognize these states of awareness without direct experience that brings us meaning and anchors it into us in a way where we can re-access
Yeah.
it and want to, because it was such a meaningful experience.
Yeah, exactly. And this is where we must understand, according to the tradition, that all experience is sexual. Not in an abstract way, but everything is the union of the yoginis of my body senses, sight, hearing, smelling, and their objects, the yogis, the male counterpart. Okay, the senses and their objects, my sight and what I'm seeing, the things I'm looking at. This is a sexual union. This is a relationship. And this relationship is giving birth to my world, to my experience here and now. And then, especially with breath, well, this is sexual, because this is a kind of friction. You could say it is a kind of a contact, the contact of air with my body. And, in the Kaula sexual yoga, you have three principles. You have the principle of excitement, kama tattva, the arousal, the principle of release, vishatadva, that is after orgasm, you feel that expansion. And then you have that feeling of space beyond both, which is called transparency. Well, those three things, those three aspects, you find them in breathing, because the in-breath corresponds to the arousal. When you in-breath is the moment where physically your heart rate is increasing, your general level of excitement is increasing as well. And the principle of release corresponds to the out-breath. It's going really towards relaxation. And the spaces, the gaps in between, they correspond to the principle of pure space containing those two aspects. So everything is there within the breath practice. The breath practice is the sexual practice. So everything is complete. You're never missing anything. You don't need to wait for a tantric orgy to start having real experience. You don't need that. You don't need to hope for saying, well, I'm just now in a traffic jam. I'm just trying to listen to that breath, and this is nothing real. And when I think that other people, they are doing very, very intense tantric sexual practices, I'm just stuck in this traffic. No, you even in this traffic, you can have the full benefit of the practice, the full benefit. There is absolutely nothing less there. So there you're stuck in the traffic jam. If you can practice like this, you're definitely not wasting your time spiritually. You're not wasting your time. And you have no good reason to say, oh, I can't practice. I have to wait when I will be in Bali, when it will be holidays, etc. No, you can practice here and now, whatever happens, because whatever happens, you're always breathing. So you can always practice. Even if you are speaking with someone just like now, it is more difficult, but it is possible.
Yes, yes. And I really feel what you were saying. It's even the breath is sexual. So to experience authentic sound, for example, from within, it's very intimate, actually. And, women can often just talk and talk and talk. But when I get women sitting in a circle together and they're invited to express real, authentic feeling from within, that can feel very scary sometimes, very vulnerable to meet that, because it really does feel quite powerful. And so it can bring us right into the moment in a very direct way. Yeah.
Or it can bring you out. Like if you're used to put too much stress on in-breath, like you're charging yourself, and you can become very, very tense and emotional and hypersensitive, and you can get in a bad situation. Or if you are receptive enough, you can also arouse yourself just with stressing the in-breath when the air goes in to the heart and strikes the inner heart, the inner center of emotions. And of course, you can reach orgasm just like this, especially for a woman. It's more difficult for a man. Actually, I've never heard a man speak about this, but women I have heard. Yes, this can happen. So this is fully sexual. So the point is to really remind people that there is nothing less in this very little, humble breath practice. Like a ritual, it's like a gift, it's like love, it's like a relation, like a relationship relating to the world. It is a full path, a full path. There is nothing missing in it. It's very important to stress this. Yeah, those tiny little things, yeah. And it's important as well to say that, okay, when you have a strong emotion or something happens,
this message is for the ladies. If you want to fully get in touch with yourself and your body, enter the Tigress path. Here you become an initiated woman living way beyond patriarchal sex, and also become a safe space for men to learn about patriarchy without the blame. Inside the Tigress path, we have personal transformation and also professional accredited training options. The links to connect are below with this episode.
You can let it pass through the space of you. Okay, like I'm the sky, and things I let them come and I let them go. This is possible, and this is a very good practice, especially with the end of the out-breath, because the out-breath is a kind of death and letting go. Okay, it's the out-breath. You're just giving things away. You're just dropping away. You're just letting go. Okay, but let us not forget the second aspect of inner experience, that is turning myself towards this inner deep feeling of love and ecstasy. That orgasm, that O feeling, let's call it this way, this O feeling. And let us not forget that the benefit we can expect concretely is not just a little bit of letting go, like I am neuter, I'm just remaining like space-like, silent, and moving unmoved, and letting things and emotions passing through me like clouds in the sky. This is good, of course. This is good, but this is not the most powerful part. The most powerful part comes only when, in this inner silent stance, I turn myself towards that deepest of feelings, When I have the courage, the curiosity, the audacity to turn myself towards that deepest of sensation. Why? Because then I feel bliss. I feel this, not only peace, but bliss. And this is an altogether different story starting. Because then there is something positive. I feel that inner spring of nectar that is filling me, that is nourishing me, that is healing me in a positive way. And even more than that, when I feel this, I start to have the intuition that it is possible to feel that bliss, that awe feeling, even in the strongest of emotions and in the darkest of them. In the storm, in the heart of the storm, there is that heart of me, that awe feeling which is not just peace, the eye of the storm, but also that spring of inner bliss, that love, not abstract love like I must love everyone. And no. That feeling, that awe feeling that you feel right on when you orgasm, or when you take someone into your arms, or when you let go into the arms of someone else, when you take your cat into your lap, when you feel that, that feeling when you take someone or some alive being, it can be a cat or a dog, or when you take him or her in your arms, you feel that, that feeling of energy going inside, and that feeling, how to call it, how to describe it, or that feeling when you just let go on your bed, when you're exhausted at the end of your work, and you just let go like this, you just let yourself fall, and inside you feel that inner feeling of bliss. You feel it in your chest. You feel it right in the center of you. That is what is really making a difference. That is what can change your life. And this is very different, because you can feel that even in anger, even in very strong excitement, even in very strong agitation, even in fear, even in pain, even in despair. This is the teaching of the tradition. Not just in the peace of meditation, but in the strongest of emotion. Not just as the peace around, the space around the emotion, but right in the heart of the emotion. Just the purest part of anger. Just before we spoke of this anger, and now the mind starts about this trip I had organized, those holidays with that someone who just said, no, it's everything is canceled. So I'm just very much disappointed. I'm falling or rising in anger. Okay. And the mind starts and nourishes the anger, and it's rising. And I'm becoming more and more tense. And now I'm becoming angry against my anger, because I realize that I am angry and that I should not be angry. So I'm just in full war with myself. So I'm very miserable. But what the tradition says, the yogini tradition, the yogini tradition, is pointing at the heart of your anger. The tradition says, okay, there are the objects of the anger, the person who disappointed you, all your expectations disappearing, and the consequences, what will I do, and everything the mind says. Okay, there is also the space around, the space of peace, the silent space. But there is something more. There is also the pure energy, the pure feeling of anger. That is, you take anger, okay? You take anger, but you take out all the whys and the hows and the circumstances and the objects and the contents. You just go back to the pure feeling of anger, the pure feeling of anger, the raw, pure feeling. And there, what the yogini says is that if you go there, in fact, what you're feeling is the pure I am, the pure orgasm of being, the pure ecstasy that is giving birth to everything, all the universes right now. So what you're feeling actually is just pure bliss. But why do you suffer? Why is it painful? Because you just turned outwards, toward the things. But if you turn inwards, towards the pure feeling of anger itself, you will find that this anger is actually pure clarity, pure freshness. It is a freshness that will bring you beyond the mind and its stories.
Yes.
It won't necessarily stop the mind, but you can, little by little, or suddenly, you can start discover this extraordinary mystery that actually the heart of anger or despair or any strong emotion or fear is just this pure I am. This pure I am. And this pure I am is pure movement, pure potency, pure vibration, most intense. So you don't need to escape anymore from the agitation, from the intensity. No, you just remain there. You explode. You go back to the heart of this atomic nuclear explosion. And there you discover the Big Bang. And you discover that infinite wonder. And you discover this secret. In the heart of emotion, without rejecting the emotion, you find freedom, you find ecstasy, you find bliss, even in pain, even in physical pain, tradition says. You know, in the Vijnana Bhairava, those 112 techniques, there is this one verse on putting a pin on your skin. Just to arouse pure pain, and just there in that pure pain, go back into the pure pain itself and find pure bliss. That is the wonder of wonder. That is the heart of the Tantra teaching, finding orgasm in pain. But this has nothing to do with SM techniques and practices. This is just the practice of pure emotion. And so when you are freaking out, when you are completely lost, you can find that pure I am, which is not just aside from the emotion, but just the heart of it, the heart of it, the heart of it.
It's actually so profound what you're sharing, because ordinarily it's so easy to just get fixated on the content of the situation, you know, and be consumed by this storm of emotion inside, you know, and play that out externally, which can create all kinds of more karma basically. And so what you're
Endless.
saying is so incredibly profound, you know, and I know that a lot of people on a spiritual path can often get stuck in judgment and shame about feeling what they think is not spiritual.
Not spiritual. So they believe they're just excluded from that bright destiny and they're doomed. Well, and it's also important for people who have a hot temper. What about them? Or those women who have some moments in their cycles where they feel more sensitive and they are so much afraid of their own body, of their own reactions, of their own emotion. So that is why there are really two things here. There is the Shiva aspect, going into space, okay? The witness space, giving space to emotions, giving space to fear, in the hope that this space will dissolve the fear and thus transform it. And this is a fully valid path. This is a valid path. Okay. But then there are so many people, and even most of us, we are carried away. We are carried away because life has that wisdom of being able to touch the most fragile point of our armor. So what do we do then? So this is where the Tantra, the Yogini teachings come in. They are saying, well, you don't need to dissolve or even go back into space. You don't need to take a step back. You don't need to try to expand yourself and to become space for the emotion. This is very good. This is a fully valid practice. But it's so important to acknowledge that there are so many of us who can't do this and who are desperate because again and again, I'm carried away. What do I do? What do I do with me? And with my temper, with my nature, because I can't change it.
Mm.
And those people, they must know, at least intellectually, just hear it, that it's possible to ride the tiger or the tigress, to ride the wave. You know, it's possible to surf the wave, not just to go away, I'm the ocean. Okay. But just at the heart of the emotion, you find not so much peace, but bliss. Bliss.
Yes.
Bliss.
Yes. And that, or riding the tiger or the tigress, like you said, you know, in the women's practices, part of the work is getting used to such a strong, powerful vibration moving through your body and not being in resistance to it and allowing it and calibrating to that, getting familiar with it. And, you know, I experience the vibration of anger as an ally, actually. It has intelligence, it has a purpose. And it feels like pure, raw power, content dissolved to the side.
Exactly.
And so when you said going deeper into that, into the I am, this is where I feel the Shiva component of these teachings is so complementary to this embodiment process for women working with Shakti.
Yeah, so that is it. That is it, exactly. That is it. That is it. Not only finding the Shiva peace in anger, say, but finding as well the Shakti I am bliss within the emotion, in the heart of the emotion. And that is why we have those movements and dance practices. This is to feel that I am in the movement, that pure vibration in the vibration of the movement, so that when you have strong emotion, you can still taste that bliss and even feel that bliss thanks to the emotion. And so
yes,
you won't be afraid of fear anymore.
yes.
That is, if you can reach there, some people do, even outside of the yogini tradition. You know, the people who like extreme sports and activities like base jumping and so on and so forth. In fact, why do they like fear? Because they discover within fear that kind of tingling, that kind of bliss. It's a kind of bliss. And even within the sexual practices, why people love sometimes kind of masochistic practices, how do you call it? Like SM practices.
Yeah.
Yes. It's because within the pain, they find the bliss. This is the special yogini teaching. It's so important. So important. Why we like pain sometimes? Why we like to eat food with chili? Why do we like pain? Why do we exercise muscles like in a sport room, which is very ugly, noisy, full of people smelling bad? And what is the satisfaction? Is it just for looking at ourselves in the mirror? I don't think so. I believe it is within this effort, within this pain, it's a kind of pain, we feel that bliss, that pure energy, which is the heart of the universe, which is the heart of the yogini, which is the heart of life. That is why people do stupid things. I'm not saying it's stupid to do muscle building, but I think this is the secret behind.
You're talking stupid, meaning maybe being extreme about it and overdoing it. Is that what you mean?
What I mean is that from the outside, it looks stupid. Why so many people are paying to go in a place just to exercise, a place which is not so nice. I mean, it's not like a garden with flowers and things like that. No. So how do you explain this? There must be an explanation. And I believe is that they have the intuition that actually in moving things, in moving weights, you feel that energy that is beyond you. And you feel at the heart of pain that bliss. It is so simple. Yeah. So simple.
Yes. And I was going to say that, exploring BDSM can be worthwhile to get familiar with certain frequencies and feel your own power within it. And, it's really a metaphor for life. But the thing is, life is already providing us with all those experiences. If we're actually present to it, it's already happening.
That we can be sure. Yeah. It can be a safe space, like a meditation space, an exploration space. Okay, that can be. And it can be very, very satisfying to discover that within pain, within fear, in experiencing places that usually you don't dare to go, you can feel bliss. That can be very, very, very powerful in daily life, in the emotions of daily life. You discover that when you are arguing with someone at work, you can feel bliss, not by just destroying the other person or hating or trying to dominate or anything like that, but just letting the emotion come, and within that emotion of anger or fear, you can feel bliss. That is great. That is great. That is the real tantric alchemy. That is what Tantra is all about. The special yogini teachings. Because the yoginis, they are sorcerers that can shift shape. Their heads are always changing. All the emotions, like a cat, like a dog, like a buffalo, it's always changing. And you can see so many statues of them with different heads, like a bird, like a snake. Because we are shapeshifters. And the teaching of the yogini is to discover the healing bliss within those shifts of mood, within those cycles. This is the big teachings, with all this imagery of those yoginis eating themselves, drinking their own bloods, doing things so absurd and extreme. The meaning is that we are actually shifting and eating ourselves. We are kind of cannibals ourselves. We are vampires of ourselves. We are taking our own energy. We are at war with ourselves. We are eating ourselves. So those teachings, they are very important because they show how those bad witches, they can be transmuted into beautiful fairies.
And, maybe elsewhere, but certainly in India, like today, right now, there are people that are experiencing physically some of those practices that you talked about. And my Indian friends who've witnessed it directly, tell me like how high that frequency actually can be, and some of these practitioners are really respected. Actually, it's just quite mind-blowing to try and comprehend that approach.
Though it's important to remind our listeners that it's absolutely not necessary to eat people and live like they do to experience, to realize those deeper truths, of course. And it's also it could be a trap, it could be a trap. So within the yogini traditions, all those outer ways of practice, like eating dead bodies or sleeping or sitting on a dead body, like the people you said are doing, they're called the agoris, or eating a chicken alive, or none of this is necessary. It's very important to stress. What is important is the deep meaning of all this, This is what is important.
I'll put a disclaimer with this episode, please don't. Not eating people.
Not eating people, no.
David is not an advocate for that.
No, I'm not advocating this. But, just inner experience like this, invisible, is so powerful, We would like to be great heroes of extreme spiritual practices, but no, the real place to practice, the real temple, is the little things of daily life that arouse us so much. We feel very often so much humiliated by just one little word of this person, and we will think about it all day long. And we would like to be big heroes and okay, we are ready to sacrifice ourselves, but only for big things, big, very spectacular things. But the truth is that our field of practice, of exploration, is those little problems of daily life. Those little deceptions, disappointments. This is the true, as we call it in India, the Shmashan Kshetra, the cemetery, the cremation ground. This is the true, because the cremation ground is the usual place of practice of those extreme practitioners. But the actual cremation ground is daily life. When let's say, for instance, the woman I love does not speak to me, is ghosting me. You use this expression in English, ghosting me. So, and when I am becoming like this, and I'm just becoming like a nuclear bomb, I just want to nuke the whole world. this is the, and I feel miserable because no one is seeing what I am going through, because this is invisible, this is humble, but this is the true practice. This is the true practice.
The real temple is the little things of daily life. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, the small things, you know, that harm us so much, that those small, they are yoginis, but unrecognized. Unrecognized. And the way is the way of transmuting those little yoginis. You know, it's like the horrible witch. We just need to approach, to kiss her on the mouth, and she will transform into a beautiful fairy. This is the yogini path. This is the yogini path.
That's so wonderful and interesting. Yes.
This is our life. It's a beautiful garden, if only we have the audacity. Courage. Courage. You know, courage, the word courage comes from the French, courage. And the word courage actually comes from the word cœur. Cœur means heart. So courage means to have heart. To have heart. To live fully.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean to take drugs and to go into parties and so. No, it means to live fully here and now. You don't need to go to Ibiza and places like this. Just remain where you are, even in a gray day, in a traffic jam, in your little office. This is the place of practice. This is the place, the temple of magic, where the magic is happening, really. You just go back to this awe feeling. Just go back to this awe feeling. And everything is there. Everything is there. This is the whole path. This is the whole path.
And to call on that in the challenging moments of daily life, it can help a lot to have a practice, a meditation.
Oh, practice. Yeah. A meditation practice, an experimentation practice also. So it's very important not to put yourself into a prison with this practice, but to be optimistic, to be curious about what's happening, about what is possible, not knowing. You're not trying to fix things, you are exploring. It's an adventure, it's a journey. This is very important, to keep an open mind, a positive mind. Everything is possible in this way. I don't know. I don't know what will happen. I don't know. The mind cannot grasp this fully. I don't know. This is so important. Everything is possible in this sense. And the best, especially the best, yes.
And in the lineage that you teach from, David, is there a main meditation practice? Is there many?
Yes, there are two main meditation practices. But in the tradition of the yoginis, there are, in the Vijnana Bhairava, for instance, there are 112 techniques, if you want to call them this way. I prefer to call them games of awakening or games of love. Like, for instance, pay attention when you're sneezing. What happens? Or pay attention to the gap between two thoughts. One thought is over and the next has not yet started, like between two breaths. What's happening then? Or in between sleeping and waking. What happens? What is there? Like pointers, or just with the breath, or just if I'm more into visual things, visualizing the central channel with light arising and going up through the top of my head into the sky, higher and higher. Or just gazing at an open landscape or at the sea. What's happening? Or just gazing and listening to the fire, to the crackling of the fire. Or just sitting next to a river and letting myself being carried away by the sound of the river, instead of being carried away by my thoughts. So on and so forth. So all in all, I believe there are something like 360 techniques, one for every day. But basically, they go back to those 2 points, silence and turning into this inner bliss. Silence and bliss. That is, in other words, listening to I am. Listening to I am. And this is why the greatest, the most powerful of all mantras is aham, I am. Aham in Sanskrit, I am, means I am. You can do it with the breath. I am, or aham, aham. So simple.
Yes. And is this something that you teach in your course, in your online course?
Yes, exactly. Online courses and workshops.
Okay. Okay. Are the workshops online also?
Not online in the real world workshops. They are complementing the online courses.
Okay, great, great. And so maybe this is a good moment to let everyone listening know that you have your foundational program beginning soon, the full online course. And what about live in-person workshops coming up?
The workshops, for now, they are known in English.
Okay.
Everything is in France, but I hope soon there will things happening outside France as well, or even in France, but in English. But at the moment, I'm basically French, so it's mostly in French. The online course is, of course, in English, but the workshops for the moment, they're just in France.
Sure, sure. Do you think you would be traveling anytime soon to share?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I would be sure traveling. I would be traveling. As long as there are planes to travel, I would. Yes, I would be very happy. I love to travel. I love to travel.
Great, great. Well, you've once again been incredibly generous sharing your wisdom today, so thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening and welcoming me. And yes, I'm very curious also about your practices, your daily practices, and your journey, where you are, what you have been through, and what do you expect next, and how do you share and all your skills in coaching, especially women. Shakti is always a big mystery for Shiva. The Tantra says that Shiva can never really fully understand the heart of Shakti. But for me, it's just a mystery to be worshipped, We are big mysteries to ourselves and to one another, and that can be wonderful.
Yes, yes.
It can be wonderful.
And for women in ourselves, a mystery to be experienced, and I hear many parallels with the somatic approach in everything that you've shared today, actually. And there's a level of the somatic therapy world where they present it as a very formalized technique, but actually these things happen by our natural body intelligence. And when there's an opening there, it takes it to a different level when we follow that.
Yes.
Yes.
It's a journey of wonder. This is what the yogini says. They say that yoga is just different states, levels of wonder, more and more, more and more. So it's beautiful not to know. It's beautiful, the mystery.
It is. It is. It's a beautiful mystery. So that feels like a beautiful place to end our time together today.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, David, so much.
Thank you, Devashi.
Whenever I'm out socially and a friend asks, Devashi, how can I get my partner into this exploration about living beyond patriarchal sex? My answer is exactly what I've put down in the show notes for you with this episode. And if you are willing to be the spell breaker of your bloodline and have the uninhibited pulse of Eros guiding you through life, beyond the matrix into the fullness of your divine sovereignty, then keep tuning in to these weekly episodes and share it with your friends. And may we all be free from suffering.